Burrow's got to be with the other two guys. He's got to be with Allen. He's got to be with Lamar. We talked about it at the top of the show.
Well, you got to move someone down, Coach. That's not the conceit of the segment.
I hear you. Okay, so I mean, take your pick. At any given week, you can move Lamar down and Burrow up, or you can move Allen down.
So you got Joe as number 2.
I think Joe's a victim to some degree of the organization that he's in, and as much as there has been support for him offensively, you know, you're in a bind with the issues that they have defensively. You're in a bind with the way that they've negotiated contracts and gone into the start of the season, and their inability to get anything going early on. But again, let's take a look statistically. And Nick, for some reason, disregards statistics.
I don't.
But if you look at what they did, this objective criteria that I'm showing, you can see that Joe Burrow's numbers are objectively better in almost every category than both of those two players. And if you put him in one of those other organizations, would we be having a radically different discussion?
But Coach, don't you think if you put him in one of those other organizations, his numbers would be way worse? If you put him in a more functional organization with a more well-balanced team that didn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and that wasn't losing all the time, he wouldn't have thrown for as many yards, he wouldn't have as many touchdowns, his numbers would be worse. And so, like, I think, to me, it's a little bit of having it both ways. Like, he gets the benefit of playing from... Like, the benefit for a quarterback of playing for a team with a bad defense is you get to put up huge numbers because you're throwing all the time. The downside is you've got to, score a bunch of points to win, and again, I'm not putting a majority or even many of those losses on him last year, but if you're the second best quarterback in football, and the other 3 quarterbacks are just constantly either making the Super Bowl every year or going on deep playoff runs every year, and you've missed the playoffs 3 of your 5 years as a starter, some of that has to fall on
That's so funny. It's so funny because he's only doing that because Patrick Mahomes' numbers have been down. And they've been winning, and so he's going to be like, well, of course the numbers are down if you were on a more balanced team and a better defense and this and that. It's like, oh, okay. Why weren't you saying that before when Patrick Mahomes' numbers were really high? Like that's so convenient and really, really interesting. Joe Burrow is absolutely a victim of his franchise. It's so crazy to me that people want to pretend like Joe Burrow isn't elite. I mean, it's crazy. What Joe Burrow did this last season, he played out of his mind. He played out of his mind. People don't really understand just how bad this team was. That's why I made a whole video about it and compared it to Patrick Mahomes' 2022 season, because that's what someone in the comment section said. And that's why I said, okay, let's compare it. And I was like, Joe Burrow actually was better than Mahomes in 22. And then someone said, in response to that video, they said, oh, you're cherry picking 22, bring up 2018. And it's like, yeah, Joe Burrow is better. Joe Burrow is better. What Joe Burrow did was out of his mind. And considering all I've heard this past offseason is O-line, O-line, O-line. And Joe Burrow puts up those numbers with the worst O-line in football. And we're supposed to pretend like that's nothing? Really? Please make it make sense. Please make it make sense. Because I'm so sick of hearing it then. I really am. Because after that Super Bowl, that's all anyone cried about was the O-line, O-line, O-line. And yet now you have Joe Burrow doing this. And you want to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because he's got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. He had T. Higgins who missed a third of the season. A third of the season. And he had Jamar Chase, no run game, and a terrible defense. And we're going to pretend like that's not wildly impressive because then he didn't make the playoffs because it was his fault. It's his fault, really. Like, that makes any sense. It's just insane. It's utter insanity. If we were having a real honest conversation and having an honest conversation about the organizations and the coaching staff and the weapons and this and that and look about how these quarterbacks have been playing, we would have Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson all top 3 above Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes has not individually been playing top 3. He just hasn't. And again, don't come at me and say, how could you say that if he's been if for Patrick Mahomes, if he's been winning, and it's like, if that's the case, then Joe Burrow wouldn't even be top 4 if that was the case. So no, you're just picking and choosing when you want the logic to matter. And that's not how it works. That is not how it works. I mean, it's so comically hilarious that Joe Burrow gets held to such a, Patrick Mahomes. Nick always cries about Patrick Mahomes being held to this unfair standard, which makes 0 sense. But Joe Burrow doesn't get the benefit of the doubt because he has Jamar Chase and even T. Higgins for that matter, and even for the whole season. But let's just say he has those 2. And yet, no one ever talked about that with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce from 18, 19, 20, 21. It's just bizarre. Joe Burrow has been doing more with less, without a shadow of a doubt, more than any of those quarterbacks, Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. He's being asked to do more with less for his team. Now he has some higher quality weapons, but when you factor in the defense and the O-line, it's like, are you serious here? And you want to talk about like, oh well, if he had a more balanced team and didn't have Jamar Chase and better defense, he would be. Yeah, could you imagine what Joe Burrow would look like with an actual O-line? Let's take a look. Joe Burrow just out of his mind. This is in a clean pocket when he's kept clean. 96 offensive rating, 3,480 yards, 7.4 yards per attempt, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Where's Patrick Mahomes? Ranked 15th. Ranked 15th. And if you want to say, well, wait, that's not fair, then let's look at when he's under pressure. Oh, that's right. Joe Burrow is still above Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson's number 1 under pressure. But Joe Burrow has more passing yards, more touchdowns, 15-3, 1,400, 7.9 yards per attempt, and a 58% completion percentage. Top 3. Patrick Mahomes under pressure and touchdowns, 7. Joe Burrow has more than double. And again, this is 2024. So it would say, oh, that's not fair. Let's not do that. Okay. In 2019, is that not a good enough year? You have Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Patrick Mahomes had 8 touchdowns under pressure. Remember, Joe Burrow had double that. Patrick Mahomes had an offensive rating of 67.7. Remember, Joe Burrow was better than that. Patrick Mahomes only threw 927 yards. Remember when Joe Burrow was better than that? Patrick Mahomes had a 49.6 completion percentage. Remember when Joe Burrow was higher than that? I mean, Joe Burrow in a clean pocket with weapons, equivalent to Patrick Mahomes in a clean pocket with weapons. 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, the 96 offensive rating, 3,480 yards, 75.3 completion percentage. Compared that to Patrick Mahomes, who has less yards, 2,104. Less touchdowns, 18 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and a lower PFF rating of 89. I mean, 28 touchdowns to 18 touchdowns. 75% completion percentage to 71.5. What about drop passes? We don't know about drop. Okay, let's do adjusted completion percentage. 78.8 for Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow, kept clean. 81.8 adjusted completion percentage. So that's now removing any drops or anything like that. So Joe Burrow is better under pressure. He's better when he's kept clean. And yet he's somehow just a throwaway. And we're going to just all talk about like wins. Like defense and situational stops have nothing to do with it. Not to mention Joe Burrow, which I had already showed you, since 2020, has been statistically the most clutch quarterback in the NFL when down under 5 minutes to go. So if you want to talk about big plays and clutch moments, Joe Burrow is still number one in that situation. In Patrick Mahomes' best year in 2018, 41 of his touchdowns came in a clean pocket. 41 of his touchdowns. Remember when everyone kept trying to act like it was all his magical off-the-script type stuff? 41 of his touchdown passes were in a clean pocket. Pretty good for a top 6 O-line in the NFL. But when he was under pressure, you know, like where Joe Burrow spends a bulk of his time, 1,353 yards. This is 2018, man. This is supposed to, according to Nick Wright, the greatest season we've ever seen by a quarterback in NFL history. 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Compare that to what Joe Burrow did under pressure. 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,400 yards. And a 58.5 completion percentage to Patrick Mahomes' 47.6%. Again, this is with Tyreek Hill. This is with Travis Kelce. Weird. See what happens when things don't make sense to you? You guys going to try to pretend that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are better than Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? Because I know KC fans can't even go that low and make that up either. The argument here is not even for me to say that Joe Burrow is better or this or that. It's just the blatant disrespect of Joe Burrow. And to pretend because his team has been an utter failure by no fault of his own, that he then deserves to be knocked. Or this invention of, well, if he had a more balanced offense and this or that, so then why aren't you saying that for Patrick Mahomes in 2018 and 2019? And why use the same criteria then, man? Use the same criteria. And again, if you want to come back and say, well, Super Bowls and this or that, that's fine then. Then do that for every quarterback who's winning. Then right now, Jalen Hurts is better than Patrick Mahomes. Then Tom Brady is light years better than Patrick Mahomes. Light years. More than double. That's the game you want to play. Bring it on. Then Eli Manning is equal to Peyton Manning. Aaron Rodgers and Nick Foles are the same. Troy Aikman and Patrick Mahomes are the same. Terry Bradshaw is better than Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, those are the rules that you want to play with. You're the ones that want to create that environment. You're the ones that wants to create that playground. That's on you, not me. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? You guys say that I'm cherry picking nothing. I went through 2018 and 2019. I don't want to hear it. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way. Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.